Hello, this is Derek Haney for solvingofc.com. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to use the OpenFace EV calculator templates that I've created for you. So the first thing we're going to want to do is pull up a hand of a treble spot we may have played before in the past. So here's a very generic pineapple OpenFace hand where we want to know whether we should put the kings up top to gamble or put kings on the bottom to avoid fouling and play it safe. So this hand history isn't all too important, but the important part is how we plug in the information in order to ascertain our estimated EV. So if you use a chart, you can find that you have about a 56% chance of hitting your hand, either a jack, a 2, or a running pair on the bottom, so we'll input 0.56 for our odds to hit. The amount we win when we hit is 16. It's Fantasyland value plus royalty plus winning the top. Our amount that we lose when we lose is actually going to be minus 3.66, and this is some math that I already did before coming out here. That has to do with how often our opponent will foul with their hand, because they're also all in. And so it's not quite minus 6. We have minus 6 in the spot traditionally because that's usually how much you'll be risking, because when you lose 6 points overall. And our play it safe board value, which I also already kind of calculated here, is minus 2.2. So if we look at based on this brief estimate of our odds, the amount we win when we win, the amount we lose when we lose, we can see that our gamble board value, if we put kings up top, is 7.3, and our safe board value, our board value if we put kings on the bottom, is minus 2.2. So we have a EV difference of 9.5 points is an estimate, and we can tell that it's just definitely better to put kings up top. On the right hand side, I leave room for taking some notes to try and maybe do some estimates for some of these fields, as well as you could input hand history directly into here, like a screenshot from the game or a picture of how the hand is set up, so that you know what the situation is and how to remember it. So from there, we can take a little bit more of the problem into detail. So we have pretty much the same thing here, except we have a lot more calculations going into our safe board value calculator. So our odds to hit are the same, and the amount we win when we win are the same. If we play it safe, we want to know how often we think we're going to win the top. So we could estimate that at something like, because our opponent's all in, we're going to win a little bit more than 50% of the time, since it's about 50-50 right now, so we'll just say 75%. How often we're going to win the middle is 0, except when they foul, and they foul 39% of the time, so it's going to be 0.39. And then we're also going to win the bottom when they foul as well, which is 39% of the time. We're going to scoop when they foul, which is also 39% of the time. We're going to get scooped some percent of the time when they don't foul, so out of the 61% of the time that they make their flush, they're going to scoop us, let's say, a third of that, maybe even half of that, so 30% of the time they'll scoop us. Our royalties on top, we have a chance of hitting the running pair up there, so we could estimate it at 2. Royalties in the middle, we'll never have any. Our royalties on the bottom, very rarely, if we put kings on the bottom, we'll never have royalties, so no royalties on the bottom. Our opponent's royalties on the top, as we move this over, they definitely have a chance at hitting. They could hit a 10 or a queen, I believe, so they have a chance at hitting. We could estimate it at like 3. We don't need to spend too much time estimating that. And that's when they don't foul, they make those royalties, because if they do foul, they don't count towards it. So it's a very loose estimate, and you could spend more time going into detail on a field like this. And then their royalties in the middle is already locked up at 0, and the royalties on the bottom, we actually want to input 4 here, and this was one of the trickier things. Let's go back to the hand example. They're all in, and this calculation takes into effect the percentage of the time that they'll foul. When we input that they'll foul 39% of the time, and we'll foul 0% of the time. So it automatically calculates that 39% of the time, or 1 minus 39% of the time, the times that they don't foul, they win 4 points. So we don't want to input the value of royalties that they win overall, which would be basically 61% of 4, which is 61% of the time they make 4 royalties. We actually want to say how many royalties they have when they don't foul. So when they don't foul, which happens to also be when they always make a flush, they get 4 royalties for that flush. So here we're putting in 4 royalties, not the estimated amount. Whereas on the top, they could draw to that hand and hit it, or they could draw to that hand and miss it. So we are estimating that they'll hit it, to an average of basically 3 points of value for the chance of them hitting a queen or a 10. That also, when they hit their club, they hit a queen or a 10 X% of the time, and that's why we're estimating 3 on top. So the 4 is not estimation, it's the exact number. And when we make the safe board calculation here, you can see that this long string that we're not allowed to modify it already includes the value of this at times the percentage times that they don't foul. So it's already kind of calculated that. So you can see that with this slightly more complicated version, our safe board value isn't as bad as we previously estimated, and our gamble board value isn't as good as we previously estimated. So it got perhaps a little bit more accurate of an answer, given that we gave more accurate inputs into the solution. So, and we can see that it is still a gamble, and you'd expect that because it was a gamble by a large margin, so we weren't going to be off by that large of a margin of error from the simple calculation to the more advanced calculation, the detailed calculator. But overall, this is how you would input the data from a hand, and the rest of the fields here will be automatically filled in for you, and you can tell right away once every field is inputted whether you should gamble by playing the risk of the gamble board value or play it safe, because the safe board value would be greater than the gamble board value. That's it for now. I hope this helped you, and I hope this encourages you to study more open-face situations. See you guys at the tables.